Hi folks, Toad here with Visordown.com, and we are here for the full review of Kawasaki's Ninja 650. So you might have seen a week or so ago that we did a sort of a shorter kind of first impressions video of the Ninja 650, and we've spent a lot more time on this bike. I think in total we've clocked up nearly 600 miles on it, which isn't bad considering I've got this and 3 other bikes to ride at the moment, so it's a little bit busy in my garage at the moment. But today has been quite a good day. The weather has been sublime, the roads have been fairly quiet, and I've freed up 3 or 4 hours in my diary to go and take the little wee green beastie out for a ride. So yeah, just really adding on to everything that I said in the first impressions review that we did the other week, and after spending a little bit more time with the bike and, you know, sort of learning to live with some of its traits and some of its habits a little bit more, just to let you guys know what we actually really think of this after we've done commuting, you know, motorway for hours on end, and also today we've taken it down some rather nice twisties and had a little bit of fun. Before we go any further, the Kawasaki Ninja 650, not to be confused with the ZX6R Ninja, which is an out-and-out track-focused super sports machine. The Ninja 650 sits further towards the Z650 side of the family tree, although it's still badged up as a Ninja because it is one of their sports bikes, so it fits into that sports bike range. But it is a more comfortable version and a more accessible, easy to use and less frightening version of a Ninja, so to speak. It is priced at £7,049, and that is for this bike here. There are other colour options that you can buy which are slightly differently priced. I think one's slightly cheaper, and you can also opt for a tour pack as well and a performance pack, but this is just the stock Ninja 650 with the KRT replica paint scheme, so you've got the Kawasaki racing decals and stuff dotted all over the bike, which make it look rather cool and do make it look very, very sporty. This bike updated for 2020, the changes that it's had: it's got new TFT lights, it's got new LED lighting front and rear, it's also got the very, very, well, probably actually the best TFT on 2 wheels in the form of the same one that's on the Z650 and the ZH2 and even the Z900, which is really, really good. With the dash you get the connectivity to the Kawasaki Rideology app as well, which tracks your route and maximum speed, average speed, all that sort of stuff. You can even go on there and check the fuel level of the bike and stuff like that. I think it's really quite clever, and it's not one of these apps that's just standalone and sits in your pocket. It actually connects to the bike's ECU, so it can read directly from the ECU, which is quite cool. They've updated the comfort, so rider and passenger comfort has been increased for this year for the 2020 model, and of course now it is the obligatory Euro 5 bad boy that you see in front of you here. So first and foremost, going to talk about the engine. It's the architecture of the engine has been around for quite a while. It is effectively the same sort of engine architecture as the ER6N and the ER6F that have been around for quite a long time. It's massively updated though, and I only really found out how updated it was when today a friend of mine was out on his ER6N, which is about 10 years old, 12 years old, and he said, oh well, that's basically the same, you need to have a go on that, just try it. So I took his ER6N up the road, and the level of refinement that you get from this engine compared to the 15-year-old ER6N was just like night and day. You could tell it was a parallel twin, but it didn't feel like the two bikes were actually related. It was a proper eye-opener for me. It was really, really interesting to do it, and I only rode it just up the road and then back again a couple of times, but yeah, it was shocking. It's a shame he couldn't have had a go on this just to see, because he's ridden that ER6M for thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. It would have been great to plonk him on this and say, look, have a spin on this and try this out, but insurance won't cover that sort of thing, so we couldn't do it. But yeah, the level of refinement from this engine going from those previous generations up to this one is just like night and day. The clutch is so light, like literally one finger light. If you're into just using the clutch with 1 or 2 fingers. It's absolutely mega, and the gear change as well is super slick. So it is still a parallel twin. It's an 8-valve double overhead cam engine, and it's putting out around about 68 PS, so around about 66-67 bhp. So also this engine is very easily converted to be A2 compliant. You don't have to worry about if you're on an A2 license, are you going to be able to convert it? Yeah, it's right within that window of where you can convert it really easily, and because you're only dropping it down by sort of 20 odd horsepower or so, you're not going to lose massive amounts of performance. Well, you're going to lose 20 odd bhp, but I tell you what, this engine's not really about the bhp. It's not all about the revvy top end stuff. It's just really torquey, and you can just use all of that torque just to help pull you out of corners. I'm going to go on to the braking system. One of the big plus points that I've found with this bike that I've really enjoyed is the braking system, and it's really ironic because it's up front we've got 2 pistons, 300mm discs, Nissin 2 pistons, and at the rear we've got a 200mm single piston, but they just feel great. I think I said this on the Z650 launch not so long ago, that I thought the brakes, they felt like top spec brakes that you'd find on a much more expensive bike. And I think I say exactly the same thing for these, because it is effectively the same braking system, but the feel and the bite that you get from them, it just feels like you can use all of the braking power, and then right at the last minute, if you're really hammering on them, or if the road surface is less sort of substandard, you'll just feel the ABS cutting in sort of nice and late and not too intrusively. It's a very good setup, and you can really get into the meat of it and get into the meat of a corner, and because you've got all the feel on the lever that you need, you can trail brake with like almost perfect accuracy. It's a very user-friendly thing to use, and it's nothing like the ZX6R Ninja sports bike where the brakes are pin sharp and you pull them with a couple of fingers and the bike's up on its nose. You can really progressively use them. You've got adjustable span levers on the brake and the clutch as well, which is good for smaller people or shorter people or people with smaller hands. I'll come on to that again in a minute, because that's another big plus point of this bike. But yeah, the ABS, the braking system on this is more than adequate for the job. And actually I think if you're a new rider coming onto a bike like this that has got that kind of feel and that kind of bite, as long as it's got the bite and it's got good feel, then that's fine, because you know exactly what you're asking of the braking system, and it just delivers exactly what you need at that particular time. Suspension wise on this, we've got 41mm telescopic forks. It hasn't got USD forks, which is the easiest way to tell this from the ZX6R Ninja, which has got the USDs with full adjustability. There's no adjustability on the front, but we do have a horizontally mounted backlink rear shock absorber on the rear, which does have adjustable preload, manual preload adjustment on there. This is quite softly sprung. I said it about, and I know I keep going back to it, but they are effectively cousins, the Z650 and the Ninja 650. They both do feel slightly underdamped. On this, it kind of showed itself quite early on, and I thought, oh god, it feels so soft. But the more you live with it and the more you ride it, the less it becomes a problem, because you can kind of think about it happening. So you can plan that dive into your braking event, and you can plan it into, when you're riding a road that and there's bumps in certain places, you can plan where you're going to put yourself and the bike to try and make the best of the suspension system. And actually you can push on. I've been out having a play on this quite a lot recently, as I've said, and there have been guys riding full-on sports bikes and super sport 600s, and it will keep up with them around the twisties. It's only when you get on a straight and they open it up that they've got 120 or 140 or 150 horsepower, and then they're going to leave you behind. But on the twisties you can keep up, but you just need to ride within the abilities of the suspension system. And if you're looking at this bike and thinking, oh well, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll just stick some Maxton progressive springs in it or something like that, there's no point, because by the time you've done that, and by the time you've bought them and fitted them, you may as well have just bought a ZX6R Ninja and got the sporty suspension with the full adjustability. I think this is just a bike that's best left alone and just ride it to what it's good at, and that is a very quick bike that you can have a lot of fun on. I think it's just a good bike for beginners, because it doesn't have that knife edge handling and dynamics that you get from a full-on super sports bike. And I actually think it's a little bit better for it because it just makes it so much better every day. So I just want to talk about the dimensions of this, which is one thing that I noticed immediately when I sat on the bike, was how bloody comfy it is and how easy it is to get on and off. I'm 5'7", so there are a lot of people who look at the modern sports bikes who are my height or shorter, and they think, oh, I'm not going to be able to touch the floor, I'm going to have to buy a lowering kit, I'm going to have to get a different seat. This has got a 790mm seat. It's exceptionally low, like flat foot on the floor at each side, absolutely no problem whatsoever, and it's just so easy to ride. It's so easy going. The bars on it, they're not clip-on handlebars, and I don't want clip-on handlebars on this, to be honest with you. I think these they're almost like a modular handlebar, almost like a straight through handlebar that mounts off the top of the yoke, but they're just, they sweep back to meet you, and you can ride it. Normally on a sports bike, if you want to ride sort of in an upright riding position to get a bit of air down your leathers or something, you'll have to lock your arms out straight and sort of sit up. It's not comfortable, you get tension in your back and your shoulders. Because of the way that the bars sweep back on this bike and they meet you, you can just ride upright like you would on a normal naked, and you can still get the air going over you and keep yourself cool, but your arms aren't out straight, they're just nicely relaxed. Your upper body posture is really, really good, and it just means that you can just ride it and ride it and ride it and never really feel uncomfortable. The seat to peg distance is a little bit short, but that's because they've gone for a low seat to try and encourage newer riders or less experienced riders, or even short asses like me, onto the bike. But it just, I don't think that's such a bad thing, because it's not uncomfortably so. It just gives it a lower body ergonomic that just makes it feel a little bit sporty. Ground clearance is not an issue either. That I've not really ground the pegs out on this, and I've had it to some pretty silly lean angles. It's absolutely fine if you do want to go and have a play, but if you were going to take it on track, which again I actually think it'd be pretty good on track, you know, you'd be able to get your knee down on this thing all day long. Just while we're talking about dimensions, it's 193 kg, fully ready to ride with a tank of fuel, but the weight is all held quite low. It's got a bit of a underseat kind of jobby fuel tank that kind of stretches under there a little bit, which helps with this sort of centralising that mass. But it does not feel weighty when you're moving it around off the stand, when you're riding through traffic or filtering. It feels light, it feels live, and it feels narrow, and it feels sporty. So it's perfectly in keeping with a sports bike aesthetic. You don't ever feel like you're riding something that's bulky or big, or a commuter bike with a fairing. So after getting on for 600 miles riding the Kawasaki Ninja 650, what do I think? I don't know, I'm thinking if I was fresh out of my test or on an A2 license and I wanted something that looked ninja and that could ride like a ninja on a twisty road, as long as I wasn't going to be trying to get my knee down on the B445, I think it'd be spot on. They do it in some fantastic colours. There's this, which I like the lime green. It's pure Kawasaki and it shouts Team Green. But there's also a performance edition that they do in a metallic black colour, which is absolutely wicked, and it almost looks like a mini H2 from a distance. It's a great looking thing. You can get the performance pack, as I mentioned, where you get the Aquapovic can, you get a seat cowl cover type thing to go on the back. And they also actually do a tour edition, which sounds odd, but the comfort of this thing is so good that you could feasibly ride it for miles and miles, and it drinks no fuel as well, because it's such an understressed engine. It gets brilliant miles to the gallon. It's got a 15 litre tank on it, and I've done well over 130 miles on the tank, just taking it very, very easy, which is pretty good for a little sporty 650 bike. Are there better 600cc super sports machines out there if you're looking for performance focus? Yes, absolutely. The ZX6R, the CBR 650R is even sportier than this, or the Yamaha R6. But none of them are going to be able to return the MPG or the levels of comfort or the levels of accessibility and usability that this can. So it's kind of catering for a different audience. You can pick them up on a PCP deal for not much over 100 quid if you go on HP over 47 months. With £1,000 down, looks pretty tempting, doesn't it? Anyway, I've been Toad for Visordown. If you've liked this video, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe and drop a comment below so that we know what you think. Also hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all Visordown's latest videos, and check out visordown.com for all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features. Cheers folks.